Salvete discipuli. Today we're going to be starting chapter 11. So you're going to need to be on page 74 in your books. So go ahead and turn there if you will, and we'll get started. This week we're going to be moving away from nouns and back to verbs for a little while. So if you remember, chapter 10 was about third declension nouns, a new pattern of nouns. This week we're going to be looking at chapter 11 and third conjugation, which is a new pattern of verbs. So the last couple of weeks we've been focusing on nouns. This next couple of weeks we're going to be focusing back on verbs. So that's going to be our topic. And we're going to start as usual with our vocabulary list. I do want you to know how to pronounce these words. So I'm going to go through the list for you real quick, and then we'll jump right into the grammar. So these are the words on page 74. Like last unit, you're going to need to do a vocabulary list, and there is a new Vulgate assignment up as well, and you have till the end of this chapter to do both of those assignments. As well as you're going to have a daily assignment just like last chapter. You'll watch the video and then complete the assignment and turn it into me on RunWeb LMS. So if you're on page 74, let's go ahead and get started. The seal this week is Esto Perpetua, which means may thou endure forever, and that's from the state of Idaho, just so you know. That's at the top of the page. And then we've got our vocabulary list, and I want you to look at pages 74 and 75. That's the vocabulary list, and if you notice, there's a part A and a part B to this list, and that's going to be really important for us because we're going to be doing verbs, but then we're also going to be focusing a little bit on prepositions, and that's what's on page 75, part B, is the prepositions. So just so you know, you do need to make a list for your regular words and then also the part B prepositions. We're going to go ahead and pronounce them all. So here we go. Castra, castrorum, miles, militis, scriba, scribi, toga, togai, curo, curere, cucuri, cursum, circumdo, circumdare, circumdavi, circumdatum, dico, dicere, dixi, dictum, gero, gerere, gessi, gestum, mito, mitere, missi, missum, peto, petere, petui, or petii, petitum, pono, ponere, ponui, ponitum, probo, probare, probavi, probatum, teneo, tenere, tenui, tentum, carus, cara, carum, dexter, dextra, dextrum. And that's all for part A. We're going to move into part B, prepositions. If you notice, the part B prepositions have the preposition, and then in parentheses, they have either plus accusative or plus ablative. That just means whatever the object of that preposition, that's what case it'll be in. And we'll talk about that more later on. So for now, we're just going to pronounce the preposition. Ad, a or ab, cum, de, a or x, in, per, pro, sub, and trans. And that's your vocabulary list for the week. So make sure that you are putting those down in a list or on note cards and going ahead and submitting that to me. Okay, we're going to move into third conjugation this week, and that's just a new pattern of verbs. So far, we've had only first and second conjugation verbs. Now we're going to add a third. And today's lesson is just how to recognize which verbs are which pattern. So to do that, we're going to look at our vocabulary list. And the first verb that I want you to look at is actually probo, which is toward the end of the list. So if you go ahead and find probo, it looks like this: probo, are, avi, atum. And if you remember, they started abbreviating those first conjugation verbs a while back. Because I guess they assume that you know the pattern really well now. So that's the pattern for first conjugation verbs. Remember the o, are, awi, atum. And the way that you know that it's first conjugation is finding the stem, like usual. So if you go to the second form, which would be probare, you take off that RE and you are left with an A. So the stem would be proba with an A at the end, and that A tells you that you are in first conjugation. So that's first conjugation. Second conjugation, to use a verb for second conjugation, the very next verb is teneo in your list. So go ahead and look at that one. And it is teneo, tenere, tenui, tentum. And the way that we know this is second conjugation is if you find the stem, go to the second form, take off the RE. That vowel you're left with, tene, is an E with a long mark over it. And I don't know if you remember us talking about that long mark, but that's important to know because second conjugation, the only difference between second and third conjugation verbs is that long mark. And so that long mark is going to be really important for you to be able to tell which verbs are second conjugation and which verbs are third. So if you go to find the stem, go to the second form, take off the RE, and you're left with an E, you could have either second or third conjugation. So that's where the long mark comes into play. If it has a long mark over it, it's second conjugation. If it doesn't, if it's just a plain E, that's third conjugation. And third conjugation verbs are a little bit different. They're actually going to use a little bit different endings. If you remember, first and second conjugation all have used the same endings so far. It's just the stem that looks a little bit different. First conjugation, the stem will end in an A. Second conjugation, it'll end in an E, but otherwise, the endings are all the same. Third conjugation is where it gets a little bit tricky because those endings are going to change up just a little bit. And we're going to talk about the endings a little bit later on. For today, all I want you to be able to do is recognize which pattern each verb is. So in your assignment for today, what you're going to do is look at your verbs in your vocabulary list on page 74, and you're going to go through and find the stem of each one. So you're just going to go through each verb, write the stem, so you'll go to the second form and take off the RE, whatever you're left with, that's the stem. So that's the first part of the assignment, find the stem. And then the second part of the assignment is to tell me which conjugation that verb is. Is it first conjugation, second, or third? So first task, find the stem for each of your verbs. Second task is to tell me which conjugation it is. So remember, if the stem ends in an A, it's going to be first. If it ends in an E with a long mark, it'll be second. And if it's an E without a long mark, it'll be third. Hint, most of our verbs this week are third conjugation, are new ones. So just be aware of that. If you're getting a lot of first or seconds, you may want to revisit it. So first, second, and third conjugation verbs. Remember, conjugation just means pattern. So whatever pattern the four forms are, that's what conjugation it is. So again, if you have any questions about finding the stem or which conjugation is which, feel free to chat me, let me know. My office hours are from noon to 1 on Mondays. So anytime you want to look at the class wall and join in that Zoom meeting, if you have a question, you can. Just let me know and I can help you out. And this week we're going to be finishing up third conjugation. Again, you'll have an assignment after every video. Be working on your vocab list and your Vulgate assignment. And then at the end, you'll have another open book quiz. So just so you know what's coming up. And as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. And I will see you guys later. Walete discipuli.